Nobody has said that publicly. I'm not making excuses for anybody, by the way, but I just think it's really interesting. So the cover-up began immediately.
100%, and went all the way up to the federal level.
Do you know that Epstein, when he was awaiting sentencing after being convicted of child predation, was allowed, they didn't even take his passport, he was allowed to travel internationally, and he traveled to Israel, where he was thinking about potentially never returning so that he would never have to be punished for his crimes. It's a big question, like, why exactly did he return? And more importantly, why are pederasts allowed to live out their days in Israel away from American law enforcement or the law enforcement of the countries in which they've offended? That's a good question. Here we go.
Before Jeffrey Epstein was sentenced, for whatever reason, you have this billionaire who's just the definition of a flight risk. They don't take his passport away. And before he's sentenced, he flees the country, goes to Israel, stays there for several months, moved all his money offshore by this point. And while he's in Israel, he's telling people there that he's thinking about staying, because you can actually do that. They don't extradite, Jewish criminals, at least, who flee to Israel. There's an organization called Jewish Community Watch, which is a Jewish organization that tracks pedophiles who have fled the United States to go to Israel, where there's no extradition of Jewish criminals there. And between just the years, I think it was 2010 when they opened up, and 2016, 2017 when this story was written, so a period of 6 years, there were already 60 pedophiles from the United States that had fled to Israel and were living freely there. Some of them had reoffended there and got thrown in Israeli jails. But so this is a thing, and Jeffrey Epstein was over there.
Why doesn't the U.S. government demand the government of Israel send them back?
I mean, you've been self-employed for a while, but when you weren't, was it your habit to go to your boss and make demands on a regular basis? I don't know. I mean, since when do we ever make demands on Israel?
I don't know, but I that's obviously distressing. So, okay. So there's clearly a cover up at the very beginning. And I just want to say again, I think that's not the totality of, but one of the reasons we don't have this information now is because DOJ doesn't have the information.
Can I tie up that last point real quick? Please. Just a second. So him being in Israel and at least having the threat of staying there, that may have played a role in him cutting his deal, because that's when his deal was cut.
He's already been charged at this point.
He's awaiting sentencing.
He's been convicted?
And they don't take his passport, and he leaves the country.
He's been convicted. Correct. And he leaves the country?
Correct. And his plea deal, let me back that up. His plea deal was negotiated while he was out of the country. Because he didn't fight the charges. It didn't go to trial, to a jury trial or anything. He was out of the country, and his lawyers could credibly go to the DOJ.
Say that is special treatment. Did any of the J6 defendants get treatment like that?
No, I don't think so.
That's what's infuriating about all this, leaving aside a lot of other elements that are upsetting. But the most infuriating is just the two tiers or multi-tier system of justice.
But here is where the conversation really gets to the brass tacks, where the rubber hits the roads, where they hit the bricks, is the question of spirit cooking and demonic and satanic activities here, the kind of activities that you would have to delight in order to allow and enable a Jeffrey Epstein, or to be a compatriot with a Jeffrey Epstein, to be somebody who's engaging as well. I mean, do you have a child abuse artwork hanging in your household? If you got on a plane and a bunch of little girls came out in their underwear to give massages, like, what would you do, right? Of course, if you visited somebody's house or home or island, or found out that these things were going on, you probably don't know anybody who owns an island. I don't know anybody who owns an island. But if you found these things out, then you'd no doubt say, well, wait a second, I'm in the wrong place. I need to call the authorities. I need to get the hell out of here. I need to throw you out of this plane. But none of Jeffrey Epstein's friends did that. So who are these elites? Tucker Carlson and Daryl Cooper are going in on exposing who these people actually are.
And can I say one thing that has always struck me about this case, and why I think it's like revealing of the entire power structure of the United States? Epstein, and there was public testimony from women who lived with Epstein to this effect. His contempt for Americans, sort of normal, middle class, working class Americans, he did not see them as fully human. He didn't. And at all. So it's like molesting, a high school girl from housing development or a trailer park in South Florida. It doesn't really count as molesting because she's a prole. Like, who cares? Yeah. And that attitude suffuses our leadership class. Like, that is their attitude. Yeah, 100,000 people die of fentanyl ODs. Yeah, but I mean, people. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, it's sad, but it's not an emergency because they're like people you would never meet and you don't really care about. Just building their fucking dollar store in their town, and like nobody cares about them. He really had that attitude, but that's the attitude they all have.
He had justification for having that attitude in terms of the impunity with which he operated. And this is actually something I was hoping.
Okay, so the story just based on available facts, which are a minority of all facts about it, but just what we have, it's like, it's a true indictment.
You remember back when the Podesta emails came out and the whole Pizzagate thing took over the internet for a while. You know, every dark corner, the Reddit and everything else was all this satanic pedophile conspiracy, you know, et cetera, called Pizzagate.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theory itself. I'm just going to use it to raise a larger point about what we're talking about here. The interesting thing to me about that whole saga was not the idea that there's some big crazy conspiracy involving just any of that stuff. That's just whatever. That's what the internet does with information like that. The interesting thing to me was the things that were just 100% fact, the bits and pieces of the story that they were using to construct that narrative, the pieces themselves are really interesting. One of the first things that came up as people started digging into those on Reddit and everywhere else and really going into it, one of the things is everybody remembers hearing about spirit cooking. You know, the performance artist Marina Abramovich did this event that the Podestas were invited to and apparently enjoyed very much called spirit cooking. And what, pray tell, is spirit cooking, Tucker? It was a performance art piece, a dinner event, where the attendees would go and sit in rooms with white walls and eat meals off of mock corpses in tubs of blood with weird, creepy messages about cutting the finger on your left hand and eating the pain and drinking fresh breast milk with fresh sperm milk on earthquake nights, all these crazy edgelord art school, you know, things that are kind of just embarrassing. But, you know, these weird cryptic sayings written in goat's blood on the walls. In one room, there's an effigy of an infant with a bucket of goat's blood thrown all over it. There's another room where there's a bunch of shelves with little figures put in positions of various positions of copulation. You know, there's photos from these events that Abramovich would put on. You know, Lady Gaga's there eating off of one of these mock corpses. Gwen Stefani's at one of them. And, you know, they're there at these places where, you know, forget about, you know, people want to say, oh, this is a satanic ritual. Forget about all that. Forget about all that. Just think about, like, if this was your friend or your brother or your sister and they went to this thing, or if they brought you to this thing, you'd be like, what are we doing here? What is this exactly? Right. And so the next thing that came out.
Wouldn't you run immediately?
So, again, you would, I would, everybody we know would, everybody.
And Tony and Heather Podesta went to this.
Mm-hmm. And well, I don't know if Heather did or not, but he and John did. And so Tony's a big art collector.
Oh, I'm aware. Okay. Yeah, I knew his wife.
Yeah, and his art collection became a big part of the whole Pizzagate
This is
story.
like right in my neighborhood, by the way, where I live.
So,
which is so weird.
You know, Tony Podesta's taste in art became a big part of that whole Pizzagate story. And it's one of those things that, again, when you have gaps to fill in a story and just pieces of information, you're not getting any explanations from anybody that make any sense, explaining it to you in a way that's plausible. That's how conspiracy theories grow like mold, right?
If something like that is going on in your city, if like some of those powerful people in your city are participating in something like that, I don't need to know anymore.
Yeah.
I literally don't need to know anymore. Like that's just...
I told you earlier that I made the point of going and buying the copy of Architectural Digest and Washington Life magazine that profiled his apartment and his art collection. And on the walls, in the photographs, in these magazines, okay, there's a lot of different art there, but like the most prominent one's a mural size centerpiece of a room. The others are poster size, like big, important, prominent pieces that he's got out for everybody to see, are by a Serbian artist named Biljana Đurđević. And they're part of a series of paintings that, according to the artist's own interviews, are based on explorations of child molestation, sexual assault, and just childhood trauma and abuse in general. And it is, there are a lot of paintings in the series, but the ones that show up in the magazine piece, for example, the great big mural one, is a bunch of young girls, they look like maybe teenagers, 12-year-olds or something, who are lying in a circle. It's called Synchronized Swimming is the name of the painting, lying in a circle at the bottom of like a tiled room or something. And they all have this spaced out, kind of dead, drugged out look in their eyes. And some of them have black eyes and they're just sort of laying there. And so...
I don't want to be ruled by people like this.
Well, so let me just because this gets so much worse.
Oh, you're upsetting me because I lived in this world for so long and I intentionally ignored this. But now that you are describing it, I'm like, I can't even believe I was in the same county as people like that.
I would, look, if I was into art that featured tied up prepubescent children in their underwear by an artist that says this is all about child sexual assaults, what the series of paintings is about. If I was into that, I would at least take it all down before company came over. These were rooms that he threw his parties in. He invited people over to.
No.
I would definitely take them down before Architectural Digest.
But if you were into them, like let me just be clear, being into something like that means that you are on an evil path. That's evil. I don't know what to say. Like an image like that, it's also obvious now that I have distance from it. That's bad.
He was asked